Pollard.
Thank you very much, Mr Stringer. And I want to congratulate, first of all, my honourable friend from Great Grimsby for securing this debate. Her timing could not have been better, because it gives the Minister an opportunity to let us know what he thinks about fishing, including clarifying some of the remarks on his website, which I hope he will do in a moment. It's also been a chance, I think, for members to hint at where the Fisheries Bill is, because as we're coming towards the end of the parliamentary session, we want to know, where's the Fisheries Bill? When is it making a return? Will it be carried over to the next parliamentary session, or will it fall and this process have to start all over again? I realise the Minister's views may be subtly different to his predecessors, and I would be grateful if the Minister could clarify that when he gets to his feet. But I want to welcome him, as I did in yesterday's debate about farming as the new farming minister, to congratulate him as to the new fisheries minister as well. He has quite a portfolio of challenges ahead of him, and from this side of the House we wish him well, because it's really important that fisheries is got right in terms of this. But I'd like to spend my brief moments talking about what fishing should look like after Brexit, Mr Stringer. I think there's an opportunity to really recast fishing policy, to address the real and genuine concerns that have been raised about the common fisheries policy. And like my honourable friend from Great Grimsby, I'm no fan of the CFP. But there have been concerns raised about the additional powers that the government is looking at, how it will be used, and also whether the government is using the powers it already has to make the lives of fishers better. I think it's worth saying that the Labour Party does not oppose the Fisheries Bill, but like my honourable friend from Waveney, who mirrors lots of what I think in terms of fisheries views, there are still improvements that should be made to the bill in terms of it. In particular, I think we need to look at how the Fisheries Bill can create a truly sustainable fisheries. Our fishing needs to be sustainable both environmentally and economically. And in the past, those two bits have been seen as opposed to each other, when in fact, actually, they are the same thing. If we don't have a sustainable fisheries policy, we don't have the fish, which means we don't have the fishing fleet, which means we don't have the processors, which means we don't have the industry, which means we further affect our coastal communities. And that's why sustainability needs to be at the heart of this. And his predecessor was not as generous in accepting an amendment from the opposition in seeking to change the name of the Fisheries Bill to the Sustainable Fisheries Bill. But I would like to see the action that this new minister takes put sustainability right throughout it, because we need to make sure the Fisheries Bill, in terms of what comes after Brexit, looks at how we regenerate our coastal communities, give a fairer deal to our small fleet in particular, ensures high level of marine safety by UK boats and, importantly, by foreign boats in our waters, promotes fishing cooperatives, and deals with the grand rhetoric and huge promises made by the Secretary of State and others in government about what fishing can get out of Brexit. Because, as has already been mentioned, there have been concerns about the betrayal of fishers. And I would encourage the new minister to be cautious about making any grand promises. Because, as we've heard about fishing in the transition period, promises that have been made to the industry, repeated time after time after time again, have turned out not to be delivered. And I would invite the Minister to be cautious about some of the words that he uses to make sure that there's no additional betrayals, no additional disruption put in there. The Labour Party would like to see that there is an opportunity to use the Fisheries Bill and post-Brexit fishing to look at redistribution of quota. It's really important that we look at how we support the small-scale fleet, in particular, in post-Brexit fishing. And there is an opportunity, I think, with the powers the Minister already has under the CFP to look at reallocation of quotas, to look at whether the system that we have for quotas is the right one in terms of this. And I think there are opportunities in order to do that. I realise the Minister on his own website has come out in support of effort-based regimes in terms of quota allocation. And that has been an area that many of us in this House hoped had been put behind us. So I'd be grateful if the Minister could clarify his view on effort-based regimes, especially because it's not something that was front and centre of the Fisheries Bill as we go forward. It's really important that the promise to coastal communities that Brexit will deliver more jobs and more fish is delivered, and that can be delivered with a fair distribution within the CFP, and outside the CFP, and that needs to be writ through. One of the other areas that we spoke about in the Fisheries Bill Committee was around marine safety. And Brexit must be used as an opportunity to increase the levels of marine safety, not only for UK boats, but also for foreign boats. The Minister at the time, I'll just finish my point. The Minister at the time didn't want to take into a suggestion from the opposition about requiring foreign boats to have the same high environmental and marine safety standards as UK boats. But there are great opportunities to adopt what's already going on. And one area in particular that I'd like to invite the Minister to look at is the life jacket scheme being pioneered by Labour-run Plymouth City Council. Now, this has been done with the industry to provide new life jackets to fishers, and let's face it, fishers don't always wear the life jackets, and we know they should, to ensure that the buckle doesn't get in the way of their operation. And importantly, there's a personal locator beacon on every single life jacket, so if that fisher falls overboard or comes in contact with seawater, the PLB activates and the search is taken out of the search and rescue. That is a scheme which, although shared responsibility of the DFT, is something that I think the Minister could achieve a quick win on. Really briefly.
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman for giving way. I'm sure he is very well aware that I have a personal interest in safety at sea. Will he, with me, welcome the fact that the government, in the last budget, made quite a considerable sum of money available for safety equipment for fishermen?
I thank my neighbour for that, and it is good to see that we have two far southwest MPs both championing fisheries in terms of this. I would like to see what that money's being spent on, because I'm cautious about press releases and announcements, and I want to see the action, and an action about spreading that best practice on that life jacket scheme to every single one of our fishing communities here, I think could be really very strong. Now, I agree with the Honourable Member from Waveney, who makes a very compelling point about strengthening the economic link. We know that for every one job at sea, there are 10 jobs at home in fish processing. But this is nowhere near enough strong enough in the bill. So I'd like to invite the Minister to look at how we can strengthen that economic link, and Labour's proposal to make sure that at least 50% of all fish caught under a UK licence is landed in the UK port could make a huge step forward in terms of doing that. I'd also like to press the Minister to do more to support the development of fishing cooperatives in the catching and processing sectors. Fishing cooperatives are a real success story from the southwest to Scotland. They've prospered largely without government support, and the potential for expansion with a fairer share of wealth and power in our coastal communities is huge. I hope the Minister will look carefully at ways to encourage more co-ops to be established and work with the Labour and cooperative MPs to help double the size of the cooperative sector in fishing. Because I think there's a real opportunity to keep that money that's generated by fishing in those coastal communities by building more cooperatives. And finally, because I realise my time is running out, I'd like to share the concerns again of my double from across the aisle from the Honourable for Waveney about electric pulse beam fishing. Now, I know that we have had a brief conversation about this in the margins of the debate yesterday, but I would like to put on record the real concern that the opposition has about electric pulse beam fishing. It's a cruel method of fishing. It's something that I think as a nation we should be proud to say we will not allow in our waters. I know the Minister is taking steps to look again at the licences of UK boats that do it, but the statutory instrument tabled by his successor that would allow 5% of the UK fleet, around 200 boats, to use this cruel method of fishing is simply not good enough. We should ban electro-pulse beam fishing and only allow it under scientific derivations when there's a clear scientific case, and not use, as some of our Dutch friends have, the case for science to create a commercial fisheries in terms of this. I think there is a huge opportunity around the fisheries debate to make sure that our coastal communities are receiving the investment they need, because in many cases the coastal communities have been hit hardest by the austerity of the last 9 years. And if we are to realise the promises made during the Leave campaign and since of the benefits that can come from a revised fisheries policy, we need not only the Minister to ensure that the regulations and laws that come after Brexit work, but I'd also invite the Minister to use the powers he already has to ensure a fairer distribution of quota and more investment in our coastal communities. Thank you, Mr. Stringer.